What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. Another purge within Putin's inner circle happened recently. This time it is pretty much the second person in the entire Russian military, General Oleg Salyukov, the commander-in-chief of ground forces. He was the one to open the Victory Day parade on May 9th in Moscow, and then, in the most important moment of his life, just when he had to say one single word, "Voля, вольно," at ease in Russian, his voice cracked. Less than a week later, Putin threw him out of the Ministry of Defense and demotes to insignificant assistant to insignificant ex-Minister of Defense Sergei Shoigu, helping him to, absolutely do nothing until the story quiets down completely and Putin decides what to do with him next. As history already proved countless times, nothing says "we've got this war under control" like moving generals around like chess pieces, right? And guess what? Vladimir Putin has quietly shown his cards once again. General Oleg Salyukov, once again the man who has overseen Russia's ground forces since 2014, was abruptly relieved of command. No dramatic press conference, no bloated statement praising his service, just a quick update on Kremlin's website that he will be now serving as a deputy to his former boss Sergei Shoigu on the Security Council, and that's it. Once again, he used to be the second person in the Russian military, entire one, right behind the Minister of Defense himself. So he was due at least, some kind of appreciation for his early retirement and thank you for your service once again, thank you, at least something. And yet nothing. If you're also scratching your head wondering why Putin would demote a general rather than pin him for battlefield failures, well, you're not alone, guys. Official spin insists that this is just a routine personnel rotation, but when frontline setbacks are piling up like discarded armor, does anyone still believe the Kremlin's nothing to see here narrative? The man replacing him is also already known. He is Colonel General Andrei Mordvichov, another man with, to say the least, incredibly shady past. So, is this purge something personal? Is it because of an unsatisfactory performance in Ukraine? Or is it really because of one single voice crack during Putin's most favorite holiday? Because nothing, and I mean nothing, can ever spoil his festivities. Not the weather, not Ukrainian drones, not even an honest mistake of a bodily function. Let's talk about all of these things one by one in today's episode. Oleg Salyukov's journey from tank regiment commander in the late Soviet era to head of Russia's ground forces spanned for several decades. And most of those decades were spent navigating a military system where loyalty often trumped competence. Picture, a young lieutenant, boots muddy in the Kiev military district in 1979, and he was proclaimed as the rising star because he never questioned orders. Simple as that. Do what you want, do what you are told to do, never question anything, even if it does not make sense, and voila, fast forward several years later, you got yourself your own office and responsibilities, so now you can give orders to people and dismiss anyone who dares to question now your judgment. Then comes 2014. Russia annexes Crimea, and Putin needs steadfast commanders with proven loyalty. This is where our Salyukov fits the bill perfectly. So, well, obviously he gets promoted to serve as the deputy head of the general staff. By the time the full-scale invasion kicked off in 2022, he became a trusted fixture on Putin's team, overseeing columns of T-72 rumbling towards Donbass. But trust has an expiration date, obviously, when real-world chaos meets modern warfare. Drones flew overhead, precision strikes shredded supply lines, and Ukrainian defenders dug in with improvised tactics that left Russian armor stranded in open fields. Salyukov's response? More of the same, just mass tank assaults, predictable infantry waves, and hope that sheer firepower would break the stalemate. Did anyone question him? I guess you guys can answer the question. Most likely not. Because Russia has not changed their strategy much since the beginning of the invasion, which honestly is a good thing for Ukraine. If the Russian military was much more competent, Ukraine and its allies will have much bigger problems. So when those advances inevitably faltered again and again, speculation swirled that Putin was losing patience. Almost at 70, Salyukov seemed out of touch with the drones and digital age reality. And in a regime where failure is never the general's fault, someone else had to pay the price. So, was this the Kremlin admitting its generals botched the job? Or just another act in a grotesque theater of scapegoating? Was his, voice crack during Putin's most favorite celebration just an excuse to take him out? Knowing the style of Putin, such seemingly insignificant things might very well become the reason for people's downfall. And where was Salyukov sent? Once again to serve Shoigu. Literally. That's like the place where every useless and ineffective military person ends up to quietly live the rest of their military careers until Putin decides what to do with them next. So, let's talk about this Shoigu's career-ending pit right now. Enter Sergei Shoigu, the man who never served in the military, but somehow held Russia's defense ministry from 2012 until mid-2024. Imagine thousands of contracts signed in dimly lit corridors, deals cut with oligarchs and defense contractors, kickbacks flowing like vodka at a wedding party. That was Shoigu's reign over the Russian army, military parades, photos of polished boots, and grandiose promises of modernization that never quite materialized. Then came corruption allegations, failing campaigns in Ukraine, and suddenly Shoigu steps down as defense minister. And, well, do you think he just retired Russian style, quiet in peace somewhere in Siberian forest? Not exactly. He landed a cozy seat on the Secretary of Security Council, the Kremlin's glided parking lot for high-profile has-beens. It almost looks like a pre-detention center where people await their fates to be decided by somebody else. And so, by putting Salyukov under Shoigu's wing is like tying a lifeline to an anchor, a very questionable promotion wrapped in demotions costume. Now Salyukov reports to the bureaucratic equivalent of a rocking chair committee, while Shoigu dusts off his old desk and retains some kind of an imaginary influence. But is it really over for him? Is this a signal that Shoigu still calls the shots behind closed doors? Or is he just biding time, waiting to pounce back into the inner circle when his successor inevitably stumbles? Because, let's be honest, Putin tries to control everything and everyone, but he is still a human after all. Sometimes things do slip past him without him noticing, and betrayal can only happen from a person you do not suspect at all. In a system where proximity to Putin is literally a currency, this reshuffling screams less of cool-headed strategy and more of a palace intrigue. Loyalty rewarded, competence cast aside, and the real levers of power hidden behind opaque Kremlin walls. And so obviously, since Salyukov has been politely dismissed even though we don't know yet his future story, he had to be replaced. And so, enter Colonel General Andrei Mordvichov. Let's talk about him right now. Colonel General Andrei Mordvichov, age 49, half Salyukov's age, and twice as eager to prove himself. Mordvichov's most recent military experience was commanding the 8th Combined Arms Army during the savage siege of Mariupol, where reports estimate over 20,000 civilians and combatants perished during months of urban warfare. A mine wound in April 2022 barely slowed him. He limped back literally to the front lines, collecting promotions like badges of honor. By late 2022, he led Russia's southern military district, then the central district, where his meat-grinder tactics, which is basically wave after wave of infantry assaults, slowly chipped away at Ukrainian defenses around Pokrovsk and Avdiivka. Next comes February 2024, which was the pinnacle of his military career. The capture of Avdiivka at a staggering cost of 30,000 casualties. For this, Putin awarded him the Hero of Russia, turning him into Kremlin's poster child for sacrifice and stubbornness. But just ask the veterans curled in the makeshift trenches, and they will tell you a completely different story. A story of half-trained conscripts forced into minefields. A story of armored convoys left stranded without logistics, and commanders more concerned with body counts than actual strategies. Russia celebrated 80th anniversary of victory over Nazi Germany, and many things changed since then. But the human waves tactics remained exactly the same. At this very moment, the Z propaganda and the Z bloggers, they all both try to answer some very crucial questions. Is Mordvichov a brilliant reformer poised to modernize a creaking force? Or is he a butcher whose battlefield record reveals a terrifying willingness to burn through human lives to manufacture headlines? The unsettling truth is that in a war defined by attrition, such cruelty is mistaken for competence, and that's precisely what makes him so dangerous. Beneath the surface lies a brewing rivalry between Mordvichov and General Valery Gerasimov, the 69-year-old Chief of General Staff. Gerasimov, the architect of Russia's early Ukraine campaign, once championed what's now mockingly called the Gerasimov Doctrine, a very questionable mix of hybrid warfare and overdressed parades. But when his own offensives sputtered and supply convoys were ambushed, criticism mounted immediately. Rumor has it that Gerasimov sees Mordvichov's meteoric rise as a direct threat, an upstart whose willingness to call out systemic failures makes him both an asset and a rival. Some insiders claim Gerasimov endorsed Mordvichov's appointment precisely to clip his wings, tethering him to a role so impossible that failure would humiliate him. Others whisper that the appointment is grooming Mordvichov as Gerasimov's successor, the man to finally bulldoze through bureaucracy and inject fresh tactics into a military stuck in inertia. But we all know that Putin's playbook has always rewarded loyalty over competence. Generals who shield the supreme leader from blame are rewarded, while those who outshine their patrons risk sudden disappearances. Russian style, like high-rise buildings, Russian tea, or even worse in some cases. So, is Mordvichov's new post a golden ticket to genuine reform or a glided trap set by the old boss? And what happens when two ambitious commanders clash in a system that tolerates no dissent and demands absolute loyalty? The Ministry of Defense of Russia has mastered the art of intrigue, scandals, ambushes and betrayals. In a place where loyalty gets you everything, apparently loyalty means nothing when things get south quick. The dilemma for career people working there is extremely huge. You can either dedicate yourself wholly to another person, knowing that he or she will not be afraid to throw you under the bus to save their own skin. The second option is just to keep your humanity and dignity, speak out in case things you don't like, and just get fired and, get out of that place before it's too late and you are in too deep into the drama. And so obviously, every person working there made their own choice. Well, there have it, guys. If you have not done so already, please subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. If you wish to support my work, there are links down below, for example, my Patreon, where you can see these episodes in the early access. Thanks so much for watching. See you tomorrow.
We want to come to their tricks, the facade they try to sell, their twisted words and feeble claims on us all they cannot quell. We see through their lies, their feeble attempts to sway. We do not believe